Pearl Jam is a band most of you probably know because of Oh, I'm Still Love and yeah, which may have inspired a couple of bands. But they're also an American rock band formed in Seattle, Washington in 1990, and one that I fell in love with because I heard and my dumb 18-year-old brain thought, man, that sounds so badass and manly. I love this shit. But that's not all there is to these guys. No, there's a whole dang iceberg, which I created myself because there wasn't one made yet, but oh well. The band's lineup consists of founding members Jeff Ament on bass guitar, Stone Gossard on rhythm guitar, Mike McCready on lead guitar, and Eddie Vedder on lead vocals and guitar, as well as Matt Cameron who plays the drums, and he joined later in 1998. At least, that's what Wikipedia says. To me, Pearl Jam is my favorite band and the one I can connect to emotionally the most. Other than that, anything to do with their songs and history is definitely something my brain likes to hyper-focus on. So let's get into it. Here's the Pearl Jam iceberg I created with some help from Reddit. Fully explained to you for all you PJ nerds out there. Tier 1. Jeremy. Mother Love Bone. Founding members Jeff Ament and Stone Gossard began playing with Malfunction vocalist Andrew Wood and eventually formed the band Mother Love Bone in 1987. Their debut album Apple was released in July 1990, but singer and Jeff and Stone's friend Andy Wood never got to see his band and music come to fruition due to a tragic heroin overdose that led to his death just 4 months prior. Thankfully now, we can still imagine what Mother Love Bone would have been like with beautiful and amazing songs like Crown of Thorns, This Is Shangri-La, Stargazer, and many others. The band's formation. Devastated by the death of Andy, Stone Gossard began fueling his emotions into harder-edged songs and riffs that he started to practice along with Mike McCready, an old childhood friend. It was Mike who convinced Stone to reconnect with his former bandmate Jeff Ament, and after a while the three of them sent out a demo tape that would soon find their way to San Diego-based Eddie Vedder. A talented vocalist, he wrote lyrics for the demo songs while on a day out surfing, recorded them and sent the tape back to Seattle. Within a week, Eddie joined the band and Pearl Jam was born. 11 studio albums. As of the date of this video, Pearl Jam has released 11 official studio albums in their 33 years of being a band. Their first and most recognizable album, 10, was released in 1991. From then on, they released Versus in 1993, Vitality in 1994, No Code in 96, Yield in 1998, Binaural in 2000, Riot Act in 2002, their self-titled album Pearl Jam in 2006, which is otherwise known as Avocado, and then Backspacer in 2009, Lightning Bolt in 2013, and finally Gigaton in 2020. Nirvana versus Pearl Jam. In the early 90s, when a new genre of alternative rock music emerged, called grunge, two bands were on top of the mainstream in terms of popularity. Back in those days, you would often hear of a rivalry between the bands Pearl Jam and Nirvana. In reality though, this mostly took the form of teens and adolescents choosing a defining side and thinking the other band was inferior. This was mostly fueled by comments Kurt Cobain of Nirvana made, saying Pearl Jam reminded him of the hairspray and cock rock scene, and that they were jumping on the alternative bandwagon. In the end though, Kurt actually considered Eddie Vedder to be a really nice person after some phone calls they shared. There's even footage of the two slow dancing to Eric Clapton's Tears in Heaven backstage at the MTV Awards. The drummer history. Alright, so here we go. These are all the official drummers Pearl Jam has had over the years. Dave Cruzen only recorded the album 10 with them, after which Matt Chamberlain played a couple live shows. Dave Abraziz, however, was the one who toured with them from 1992 till midway 1994. He recorded Versus and Vitality with the band, but was followed up by Jack Irons, who carried the torch, recording drums for No Code and Yield, until finally Soundgarden's Matt Cameron took up the sticks in 1998 and has continued to bring the thunder to this day. official bootlegs. One of my favorite things about this band is the fact that they consistently put out professionally recorded and mixed bootlegs of every single live concert they've played since the year 2000. It means that after you went to see them live in a place nearby, you would only need to wait a few months and there's an official CD of it, which you can buy or download off of Pearl Jam's website. Moreover, they're one of the few bands I've come across that have actual footage of almost every single show they've played, starting with the first ever concert they gave when 10 wasn't even out yet. One final thing I'd like to mention is the fact that they've never played the same show twice, with Eddie always making sure to come up with a new setlist on the spot, containing hits, covers, and obscure rarities alike. Pinkpop 1992 Stage Dive. As the band grew in popularity, more and more international festivals were also added to the touring schedule. One of which was the Dutch Pinkpop Festival of 1992, which yielded the biggest crowd the band had ever seen in their career up to that point. Fueled by the cathartic music and the energy of the huge mass of people before him, Eddie Vedder climbed onto the camera crane that was filming their performance and jumped into the crowd during the climax of the song Porch. But this historic stage dive is not the only time Eddie risks his life climbing the rafters and whatever he can find whilst the band played the instrumental section of Porch. This is honestly one of my favorite things about early 90s Eddie Vedder, so I made a video about it showing every single stage climb I could find on the internet. Check it out if you'd like to, he does some genuinely crazy shit. Friendship with Soundgarden. The so-called grunge scene of the early 90s was a really tight-knit and friendly community of bands hanging out together and supporting each other at live shows. One of the best examples of this is Pearl Jam's close friendship with fellow grunge group Soundgarden. Stone, Jeff and Mike were already friends with Chris Cornell and his band even before Pearl Jam was formed. But once Eddie Vedder flew over to Seattle, Chris almost immediately accepted him and took him under his wing. Being the new guy in town, Ed was really grateful for Chris, saying he was like an older brother to him. Furthermore, when Soundgarden dissolved in 1997, its former drummer Matt Cameron joined Pearl Jam and has stayed with them for almost 25 years now. Post-grunge band's Jarling. One of the things Pearl Jam has unfortunately become known for in the mainstream is the vocal style Eddie Vedder used when he was still trying to find his voice in the band. Often singing in a lower register with his naturally deep voice, the way he used to belt out lyrics in the early days is oftentimes described as jarling. This influenced almost a whole genre of post-grunge band singers, from the likes of Scott Stapp of Creed and Chad Kroeger of Nickelback. I personally think they exaggerate the way Ed used to growl and marble mouth his voice, and I really don't like the sound of it. This vocal style changed as Eddie became more aggressive in 1994 and used more distortion on his voice. From then on, his voice has become clearer while still containing the same amount of raw power. MTV Unplugged. Another famous live performance came into existence when Pearl Jam was tasked to strip down. Their instruments, for an episode of MTV Unplugged, where they played with only acoustic guitars. Other than incredible performances of Oceans, Jeremy and Alive, this 9 is known for Eddie showing his political side and writing pro-choice on his arm during a powerful rendition of Porch. Also, the MTV Unplugged version of the song Black still gives me chills and hits me emotionally every time I see it. Story behind Jeremy. Jeremy, which became a huge hit for the band, has a rather chilling story behind it. It speaks of uncaring parents, biting breasts, and the dead laying in pools of maroon. Eddie took inspiration for this song after reading an article about 15-year-old Jeremy Dell, who shot himself in front of his teacher and a second-grade English class of 30 students. Wanting to give this small article and similar events more importance, he added in his own experience of a kid who committed a school shooting at his very own high school. Eddie was walking the halls that day and overheard it, and later remembered that he actually had altercations with the kid and got into fights with him. Last Kiss. Weirdly enough, Pearl Jam's biggest hit for a while wasn't Even Flow, Jeremy, or even Alive. It wasn't even on the 10 album. No, because of heavy radio rotation, a cover of a song Eddie found on an old record became their #1 hit. Last Kiss still has about 240 million listens on Spotify, and it all started because it was picked up by DJs and played on the radio everywhere across the US in 1998. The band eventually recorded it in the studio and sent all its proceeds, which was about $10 million, to charity to help out refugees of the Kosovo War. Tier 2. Better Man. Mookie Blaylock. When the band was about midway through recording 10 with new vocalist Eddie Vedder, they played their first ever live show at the Off-Ramp in Seattle. All they needed was a name though, and so they called themselves Mookie Blaylock, after a trading card of the New Jersey Nets player that had made it into the tape case for their instrumental demos. Although Eddie seemed very shy and timid that night, about 200 people were very impressed by his vocal capabilities, as he was the new singer for Jeff and Stone's band. Kim Thayil, guitarist for Soundgarden, attended the show and said he particularly liked that song Evening Flow. You know how the evening just flows, Stone Gossard said later. Chris Cornell found Mookie Blaylock absurdly great and said it was definitely the best inaugural performance he'd ever seen in his life up to that point. They kept the name while touring for a couple more months, but eventually changed it to Pearl Jam. And as a side note, the album 10 was named after Mookie Blaylock's jersey number. Eddie becoming the band's leader. Stone Gossard, having already written the majority of 10, was the band's main songwriting force starting out. Over time though, leadership over Pearl Jam's creative output shifted towards Eddie Vedder, as he came into his songwriting groove and found his place within the band. He started playing guitar, bringing riffs and song ideas into the band for their second record Versus. By the time Pearl Jam went into the studio for Vitalogy, Ed was the one who brought in the basic ideas for most of the songs on the record. As the band went on to create more and more albums though, the songwriting and compositions were credited to either the band as a whole or to certain individuals, as Pearl Jam consists of 5 strong songwriters, each capable of making great stuff in their own right. 10 was recorded in 1 week. This is technically not true, as the album took about 2 weeks to finish. But 10 songs out of the final 11 were put to tape in a week, partly because Stone already had the demos for it lying around, and also partly because Eddie was quick to put original lyrics to the music and gel really well with the band musically.
When we made it in about, probably a total of about 2.5 weeks, so.
The band didn't want Black as a single. When 10 was out for a while, listeners around the world started to pick up on the song Black, and either liked the sound of it or connected and found themselves in the powerful emotional catharsis of the lyrics and its delivery. Epic Records, after having seen the success of Alive, Even Flow and Jeremy, wanted to put Black out as a single as well, but the band refused. The song was too personal to be subjected to heavy radio promotion and an inevitable music video. But by popular listener demand, radio DJs began spinning the record anyway, sending the track to number 3 on the Billboard Rock chart in 1993. Pearl Jam B-sides. In my opinion, this band has never made a bad record. There's stuff to love about every single one of them, and the deep cuts are amazing songs in their own right. But even random B-sides are known to be huge Pearl Jam hits. Songs that were never really promoted but have led lives of their own, as radio hits and live show staples. Some examples are Yellow Ledbetter, which was a B-side to the Jeremy single, Black and Last Kiss, as mentioned before, and Footsteps, Better Man, Alone, Breath, and State of Love and Trust. Mama Son Trilogy. When Stone sent out his demo tape in search of a new drummer and singer back in 1990, it found its way into the hands of Jack Irons, the former drummer for the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and later for Pearl Jam from 1995 till 1998. He was committed to his own band though, 11 at the time, so he refused, but he passed the tape on to a friend and a great singer he knew, by the name of Eddie Vedder. When Ed listened to the tapes, he went surfing and wrote lyrics for 3 of the 5 songs on it, Alive, Once, and Footsteps. In this order, it actually told the story of a semi-fictional and autobiographical man's life, from his birth until his death. The start of this dark and twisted mini-opera is in Alive, where a young man finds out that his father is not his real dad, and that his biological father has been dead for some time. Ed himself tells it way better though. The story of the song is that the mother is with the father and the father dies. It's an intense thing because the son looks just like the father. The son grows up to be the father, the person that she lost. His father's dead, and now this confusion. His mother is love. How does he love her? How does she love him? In fact, the mother, even though she marries somebody else, there's no one she's ever loved more than the father. You know how it is, first love and stuff. And the guy dies. How could you ever get him back? But the son, he looks exactly like him. It's uncanny. So she wants him. The son is oblivious to it all. He doesn't know what the fuck is going on. He's still dealing, he's still growing up, he's still dealing with love. He's still dealing with the death of his father. All he knows is, I'm still alive. Those 3 words, that's totally out of burden. The abused soon becomes the abuser, as the story continues in Once, where he takes his rage out on women who sexually advance towards him, just like his mother did. So now he doesn't know how to deal with it. So what does he do? He goes out killing people. That was Once. In Act 3, Footsteps, the protagonist finds himself in prison on death row. He blames all his choices and actions on one person. And Footsteps, the final song of the trilogy, that's when he gets executed. And that's what happens. The Green River Killer, and in San Diego there was another prostitute killer down there. Somehow I related to that. And I think that happens more than we know. It's a modern way of dealing with a bad life. Bad Radio. Before Eddie Vedder became known as the vocalist for Pearl Jam, he was part of the American funk rock band Bad Radio. He was a lead singer from 1988 until 1990, and even though they never released a record on the label, he wrote songs for them and steered the band towards more of an alternative rock or Red Hot Chili Peppers type of sound. Most notably, the eventual Pearl Jam song Better Man was written by Ed during his Bad Radio days, and even played live a couple times. Other Bad Radio songs I love are Believe You Me, What the Funk, and I'm Alive. Eddie riding oceans while locked outside. When recording 10, the band was often impressed by how Eddie could come up with great lyrics on the spot. One day, during a bad rainstorm, Ed was asked to put some change into the parking meter for someone, but as he made his way back, the door to the recording studio was locked. The only thing he had with him was a scrap of paper and a pen, and the only thing he could hear was Jeff's booming bass guitar coming through the walls. Eddie Vedder once said in an interview, "So I wrote the song to the bass. I wasn't even listening to hear the song at first. When I heard a break, I'd start pounding on the door, trying to get out of the rain. So as I was doing that, I thought, fuck it, I might as well write something." Green River. Before Stone and Jeff were in Pearl Jam, they were part of Mother Love Bone, but even before that, they were part of another Seattle proto-grunge band called Green River. They were playing lead guitar and bass respectively, along with vocalist Mark Arm and guitarist Steve Turner, who would later on be the founding members of another big Seattle grunge band, Mudhoney. If you're interested, I highly recommend the Green River song Swallow My Pride. Temple of the Dog. Continuing the trend of other bands Stone and Jeff were in, this one is very near and dear to my heart. Formed as an homage to Mother Love Bone singer Andy Wood, Temple of the Dog was founded simultaneously with Pearl Jam. Chris Cornell of Soundgarden, who was Andy's roommate for a long time, wrote a lot of songs to cope with the tragic death of his friend, just as Stone Gossard did. Together, along with Jeff Ament and Mike McCready of Pearl Jam, as well as Matt Cameron, they created the one-off album Temple of the Dog, named after a lyric on one of Andy's songs. To me, this is an incredibly good record that showcases what Pearl Jam could have been like with Chris Cornell as its singer. Interestingly enough though, Eddie Vedder features in the song Hunger Strike because he heard Chris had some trouble with some vocal parts. He stepped in and instinctively harmonized with Chris. He sang a verse and the rest is history. Lost Dogs. Always having to choose which specific set of the many songs they recorded would end up on their new studio release, Pearl Jam had amassed quite a number of unused songs. On November 11th, 2003, the band released an album compiling some of them, called Lost Dogs. I personally love this record. It has a nice collection of weird, obscure songs like Education and Grammy Out of Control, along with incredible tracks that deserve a spot in their main albums, like Sad, Hold On, Fatal, and Hard to Imagine. Here's hoping we'll get another one of these soon, as there must be a shit ton of unreleased songs since 2003 till now. Eddie's isolation and writing verses. When the time came to record their second album, Versus, Pearl Jam profited of their success and booked a nice hotel and a nice recording studio. Eddie, however, was dissatisfied with the luxury and felt that he couldn't write a rock record in such a comfortable, relaxing environment. In order to keep the raw intensity he wanted to put out in his new songs, he isolated himself and wrote most of his lyrics and guitar parts isolated in a van, traveling the open road. Feeling inspired, he changed the way he was singing, which gave the band inspiration to write fast punk riffs as well as slow acoustic ballads. Vitalogy book. The album cover for Pearl Jam's third record, Vitalogy, is actually based off of an old medical book Ed found at a garage sale. The book was from the early 20th century and was titled Vitalogy, which literally means the study of life. Much of the record's art and liner notes was inspired by the strange imagery in the pages of the book, and fit the theme of mental health, well-being, and life and death, which were big inspirations for the lyrics on Vitalogy. Other than that, it's one of the most annoying CDs to cram into your CD rack, as it's shaped more like a square LP. Hall of Fame induction. In 2017, Pearl Jam was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. David Letterman held a speech describing 27 years of a band that he called a true living cultural organism, and inducted members Jeff Ament, Matt Cameron, Stone Gossard, Mike McCready, Eddie Vedder, and founding member Dave Cruzan, their original drummer. Dave Cruzan also played a live with them during the ceremony. Ed's car songs. If you've been listening to Pearl Jam for a long time, you should have to pick up on themes the guys like to write about. The best example of this is Eddie's songs about cars and driving away, because man, he has a lot of them. Starting with Go from Versus, which is about not wanting his trusty car to break down on him while driving. Rearview Mirror from the same record is about the catharsis you feel after driving away from a bad situation and looking at it through your rear view mirror. MFC is a song on Yield, and it stands for Mini Fast Car, and is about all the smaller cars driving around Europe, which Eddie pondered over. Gone, a song from Avocado, is written in a similar vein as Rearview Mirror, and is more about the blissful solitude of being on the road. And on his solo record Earthling, there's a song called Long Way. It's about a man driving the freeway after a breakup. Finally, you could say that the entire Into the Wild soundtrack Ed made for the movie is about leaving everything behind and going your own way, but there's not a lot of cars in the story. Fight against Ticketmaster. Around 1994, the members of Pearl Jam were dissatisfied with the ticket prices for their upcoming tour, as hidden costs were added into the already high price for a single ticket. Wanting to offer a concert experience that every fan could be able to afford, Pearl Jam took the fight to the monopolistic giant itself, Ticketmaster. A lawsuit followed, which both Stone and Jeff attended. It didn't really go anywhere though, as Ticketmaster couldn't agree with the pricing guidelines the band laid down. $18 tickets with a service fee of $1.80, clearly spelled out on them. Even though the battle was lost, Pearl Jam remained one of the few bands to actually stand up to Ticketmaster's approach of selling concert tickets. Their 1995 tour continued to fight, as they refused playing the usual big arenas and festivals, opting for smaller, lesser-known venues and sporting fields instead. Tier 3. Give In to Fly. Alive is actually a demo recording. Before the band went in the studio to record the songs on 10 as we hear them on the album today, Pearl Jam recorded a bunch of demos in early 1991. One of the songs they played that day was Alive, and because they couldn't replicate the raw intensity that they played with when recording 10 a couple months later, they used a demo recording instead. The only thing that was added was Mike's epic 2-minute guitar solo. Mike's solo on Alive was inspired by Ace Frehley. When the band recorded 10, Mike McCready sat down and actually wrote out an entire solo for the song Alive, which he had never really done before. Even though it's one of the most recognizable and best solos in rock history, it took huge inspiration from the song She by Kiss, where his guitar hero Ace Frehley played some great parts that he adapted into the solo for Alive. This is something that happens in a lot of rock songs though. And in his defense, the solo on She was inspired by what Robbie Krieger did on 5 to 1 by The Doors. Mirrorball and Merkinball. In 1995, Pearl Jam was kind of at a crossroads. The band wanted nothing to do with the current state of commercial alternative music, and the fight against Ticketmaster was at its peak. Feeling the need to do something completely different for a change, not associated with Pearl Jam, the guys turned to Neil Young, who had become a mentor of sorts for the band as he had guided them in their huge and sudden rise to fame in the past. And so, the Mirrorball record happened, where the guys played as a powerful backing band for Neil Young, one of rock's greatest. Eddie Vedder was less involved in this project, and only came in at the tail end of the recording process. He added backing vocals to the song Peace and Love, but once he was asked by Neil, he went upstairs and wrote 2 of my favorite songs, I Got It and Long Road. Instead of Neil's Mirrorball record, these 2 ended up on an EP called Merkinball, released by Pearl Jam. 10 Club holiday singles. When the band started to grow in popularity during the early days, they started the official 10 Club, which served as the main place fans of Pearl Jam could get updates and special collectible items. Along with a yearly copy of the band's magazine, Deep, 10 Club members would receive a 7-inch single, which the band recorded and professionally mixed. These were called the holiday singles. And every year from 1991 until 2018, with the exception of 1994 because I guess they just skipped a year, fans received a new Pearl Jam song in the mail around Christmas time. Some of my favorites are Let Me Sleep, Sonic Reducer, the cover of Love Reign Over Me by The Who, and a rendition of Crown of Thorns by Mother Love Bone. Singles movie cameos. Film director Cameron Crowe's next big project in 1990 was a film called Singles, basically a romantic comedy set in Seattle just before the grunge explosion in the mainstream. Being friends with most of the growing rock bands in the Seattle scene, the film features many cameos of grunge rockers as well as performances by Alice in Chains and Soundgarden. Pearl Jam members Stone, Jeff and Eddie even played small roles in the film, serving as the fictional band behind one of the protagonists in the movie. They had some lines of dialogue and, in my opinion, some pretty funny scenes.
Other than that, he was ably backed by Stone and Jeff and drummer Eddie Vedder. I mean, that's good. That's a good review.
A compliment for us is a compliment for you.
Like a wasp that's come looking for food.
Mad Season. This one's all about Mike McCready. During the production of Vitalogy, Mike went into drug and alcohol rehab, where he met bassist John Baker Saunders. Once the two were back in Seattle though, they began playing as a side project band along with Skinyard and Screaming Trees drummer Barrett Martin. Once Mike asked the mighty Lane Staley of Alice in Chains to join, Mad Season was born, as an effort to help each other stay healthy and sober. The band's name was derived from the season in which psilocybin mushrooms are in full bloom, otherwise known as magic mushrooms. In only about a week of time, the band created their only self-titled debut record. My favorite song on there is A Beautiful River of the Sea, which you should definitely check out. Even Flow was recorded nearly 70 times. One of the biggest struggles in completing the 10 record was getting a version of Even Flow the band felt satisfied with. Mike McCready talked about this in a Q&A with the Daily Record in 2009. We did Even Flow about 50-70 times. I swear to God it was a nightmare. We played that thing over and over until we hated each other. I still don't think Stone is satisfied with how it came out. When the movie Singles was in production though, the band re-recorded the song for a soundtrack with Dave Abraziz on the drums instead of Dave Cruzen. This time they came a bit closer, but it's likely the band still don't feel like they've ever recorded a perfect version of Even Flow. The funny thing is, however, is that even though Pearl Jam never played the same setlist twice, Even Flow is a song that they pretty much always play live. According to their website, they've played it 868 times, making it their most played song. Activism. It might have been Ed writing pro-choice in his arm during Porch on MTV Unplugged, where the mainstream caught attention of Pearl Jam's political views, but Pearl Jam has always been a band that has never shied away from speaking out on their beliefs. Each member of the band takes part in activism and has strong feelings about issues and organizations in the world that they're willing to fight for. Jeff, for instance, has built many skate parks in neighborhoods all over the US, while Mike has been suffering from Crohn's disease all his life and has become an advocate for IBD, or inflammatory bowel diseases, supporting them in different ways. Stone likes to help out the people of Seattle in any way he can and is a big supporter of voting. Matt supports War Child and teachers' rights, and Ed has recently done a lot for EB research. And he has always spoken up about women's rights and the importance of voting as well.
Yo, you have to register to vote. There's a way on the way out. I mean, do it if you want, but it's your choice. It's your voice. Don't waste it. Rock the vote. It's just right out here. You got that? Do it. Nothing better to do. Nothing better to do.
Lastly, the band has played many benefit shows since the beginning, most notably the Bridge School benefit along with Neil Young. Pearl Jam also tries to be as environmentally friendly as they can in terms of touring emissions. No more music videos. Pearl Jam made videos for Jeremy, Oceans, Alive and Evenflow, but then they stopped, as the band agreed that the art portrayed in their music and its lyrics should remain subject to interpretation of the listener, and commercial music videos interfere with that. The video for Alive and Evenflow is just footage of the band performing the songs live, with no accompanying visuals that could clearly tell what the music is about. Pearl Jam changed its strong beliefs, however, about 7 years later, as they finally put out a cartoon-like animated music video for Do the Evolution in 1998. Since then, the band has sporadically made professional music videos, of which most of them still mainly show the band just performing the song to leave more room for personal interpretation. Eddie holding off on Better Man. Better Man, one of Pearl Jam's most popular songs, was actually written by Ed when he was in high school, during his bad radio days. The song is a very personal one, as it's from the viewpoint of his own mother, who was with a man she wasn't all too happy with. She keeps working up the courage to tell him she wants to part ways, but ends up not, as Ed belts out sarcastically, "Can't find a better man." Pearl Jam later recorded the song for Versus, but Eddie was reluctant. Their producer, Brendan O'Brien, once told this story. "There's a great song we recorded for Versus, Better Man, which ended up on Vitalogy. One of the first rehearsals we did, they played it, and I said, 'Man, that song's a hit.' Eddie just went, I immediately knew I just said the wrong thing. We cut it once for Versus. We wanted to give it away to this Greenpeace benefit record. The idea was the band was going to play and some other singer was going to sing it. I remember saying to the engineer, Nick Didia, this is one of their best songs and they're just going to give it away, and it can't happen. And we went to record it, and I'm not going to say we didn't try very hard, but it didn't end up sounding very good. I may have even sabotaged that version, but I won't admit to that. It took us to the next record, recording it 2 more times before he became comfortable with it, because it was such a blatantly great pop song." Vocals at the end of Black. One of my favorite Pearl Jam recording moments is on the song Black, and it's a part not many people know about. The epic climax at the end always hits in the feels, but Eddie does not stop pouring out his heart there. It's a little more buried in the mix, but he can be heard screaming out in angst during Mike's guitar solo throughout the end of the song. The raw catharsis of his voice is chilling, and I'm so glad they left it in. Sometimes to me, lyrics can still come up short in delivering the core feeling of a song, and just belting it out like Ed does here hits me even harder. Yellow Ledbetter lyrics. Yeah, so this song doesn't really have lyrics. It's a common joke among fans, and it's one of the main things people pull up when trying to prove nobody can understand Eddie Vedder when he sings. Or does it. Eddie changes up the lyrics in some way or another almost every time they play this song live, but there was a time when the song had actual lyrics. According to Mike, it was a guitar part that came out of a jam in the studio, and once he showed it to Ed, he came up with lyrics for it right there on the spot. On a couple different occasions, however, Eddie has explained some aspects of the song. An old friend of his, Tim Ledbetter, had a brother who served in the First Gulf War. Tim had received a yellow letter one day telling him his brother had died in the war. Vedder wonders if he'll be coming home in a box or a bag. He went on a walk with Tim and came across a porch where they saluted to the American flag. But the people didn't wave back as the two of them were alternative looking. Single Video Theory. Single Video Theory is a 45-minute documentary of the band in the midst of making Yield, made by director Mark Pellington. It's really great actually, and even though it's so short, you get a really cool insight in the band's inner workings and their dynamics in the studio. Back in 1998, it was the first time we got to see Pearl Jam behind the scenes, and working out songs like Given the Fly, Wishlist, and In Hiding. And it has great performances of almost every song on Yield as well. The 10 Club, a Vitalogy Foundation. The 10 Club was born from the remains of the Mother Love Bone Earth Affair, a fan organization started by Pearl Jam in 1990 as a way for the band to give back to their fans and create a community around Pearl Jam's music. Back in the 90s, this was actually a great way for fans to receive exclusive content of their favorite band in the form of a fan club only single around Christmas time, a fan magazine released twice a year called Deep, and nowadays priority ticketing and merchandise. The Vitalogy Foundation, however, is a non-profit organized by the members of Pearl Jam, which focuses primarily on helping the environment, homelessness, and indigenous causes since 2006. Tier 4, Force of Nature. Glorified G is about Dave Abuziz. Glorified G is an anti-gun song with lyrics mocking gun enthusiasts. As some Pearl Jam fans know, this song was inspired by former drummer Dave Abuziz coming in one day and telling everyone that he had just bought 2 guns. This sparked a conversation within the band, and according to Eddie, he just sat down and wrote what the guys were saying. These became the lyrics. When he asked Dave if it was true that he bought a gun, Dave simply replied, "In fact, I bought 2, which is how the song starts. Self-Pollution Radio. On January 8, 1995, Pearl Jam hosted a 4.5-hour-long radio show on their very own pirate radio station, and fans of the Seattle scene enjoyed a great night that day, listening to live performances of Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Mudhoney, The Fastbacks, and Mad Season feature Mike McCready and Alice in Chains' Lane Staley. It even premiered tracks from an upcoming solo album by none other than former Nirvana drummer Dave Grohl, called Foo Fighters. Along with Ed spinning some of his favorite records, there's also lots of silliness to be heard, which I love, like an old tape recording instructing you how to tune a bass.
Bass, first string.
And Nirvana's Chris Novoselic reading a chapter from a book he's writing about a guy who's trying to overcome his cynicism.
It was in the incessant lights. It was in the strip mall parking lots and wide boulevards. It was the world. This was America of the 1990s, and James was pulling up to his little piece of it.
10 Remix, The Reverb. Ever since its release, it can be heard that songs from the debut 10 sound a bit different when they're played live. There's a lot less reverb, and the mix sounds not so much stadium rock. The band never 100% liked how their first ever songs were produced, even though Rick Parrish did a great job. When Versus was made, producer Brendan O'Brien came a lot closer to the raw garage rock sound the band has when they play live. For this reason, and also to commemorate its 10-year-old anniversary, the 10 Redux album was released, containing the old mix as well as Brendan's version of mixing the album. MTV Unplugged in DVD format is also part of this box set. Banner Royal Hall. Speaking of MTV Unplugged, what would that be like if Pearl Jam did a fully acoustic set but years later with a whole bunch of newer songs? Well, the 2003 Bridge School benefit performance in Benaroya Hall can be an answer to that question. It contains rare songs like Fatal on Down and Dead Man, and beautiful acoustified versions of songs like Nothing As It Seems, Immortality, and Black, the last one of which has a part where the audience sings the epic climax at the end, and it gives me chills every time.
You try, give the room, you try.
References to rock magazines and Blood. Blood is about Ed facing the corrupt side of music corporations and the media, feeling like they don't fully get that the music he creates isn't just for advertisement and financial gain. To him, it's literally the blood that he bleeds. Although it's in a subtle way, he references big rock magazines that are part of this problem, saying Spin Me Round as a reference to Spin Magazine, Roll Me Over, Rolling Stone, and Fucking Circus, Circus Magazine. It's okay. My personal favorite live rarity is when the band plays Daughter and ends up playing an extended jam that leads to a cover of It's Okay by Dead Moon. There's just something calming about those chords and the way Ed sings the lyrics, comforting you and telling you no matter what is happening in your life, it's gonna be okay. I hope to one day hear this song live, and they don't play it often, so it's kind of a holy grail to many fans. Immortality is about Kurt. Even though the song talks about victims in demand for public show and a cigar box on the floor, Ed can directly debunk this fan theory, stating, "No, that was written when we were on tour in Atlanta. It's not about Kurt. Nothing on the album was directly written about Kurt, and I don't feel like talking about him, because it might be seen as exploitation. But I think there might be some things in the lyrics that you could read into, and maybe will answer some questions or help you understand the pressures on someone who is on a parallel train." Jack Irons saved the band. He did actually, in 1994 when the band was on the verge of breaking up at their peak of mainstream popularity. When Jack Irons joined the band, Dave Abruzzese had just been fired because he had different ideals and a personality that didn't really mix well with the rest of the band. Pearl Jam was also taking off really fast in the mainstream. Too fast, you could say. Then Jack Irons came in and was described as a breath of fresh air, relieving tensions and making everyone feel more relaxed. Then 1995 happened, where the battle against Ticketmaster was in full swing, and the Mirrorball record was made as a way to distract themselves from Pearl Jam for a bit. The band felt disconnected, all the while through making No Code, their fourth record, which the band still looks back on as being a non-regular, more transitional album. Jeff wasn't even made aware of the record being made 3 days into recording it. Jack Irons, however, served as a sort of spiritual guidance, and by the time Yield came out, he fully helped the band discuss and work out their problems, reuniting them and saving them from almost breaking up during their struggles. Boom Gaspar. Boom Gaspar is this really chill Hawaiian dude Eddie met a long time ago when he was surfing in Hawaii. Since 2002, he has become a full-time touring member and plays keyboard for every Pearl Jam live show. And when he's introduced by Ed, the crowd always goes boom instead of the usual yelling.
And then there was a few years we got away with somehow doing it without somebody in his position, but looking back, I don't know how we did, and now it's already been 12, 13 years with him, Mr. Boom Gaspar!
He helped write the song Love Boat Captain from Riot Act, and played the keys on other songs of this record, as well as on Avocado and Lightning Bolt. Dirty Frank. This song was written when the band was on tour with the Red Hot Chili Peppers in the early 90s. The guys toyed with the idea that their bus driver was a crazy serial killer who liked to cook and eat people while the band was out playing their shows. The cool thing about this song is that it is played in the Chili Peppers style, and it helps visualize how the Red Hot Chili Peppers would have sounded if Eddie Vedder was their frontman. No Code album cover. The cool thing is that even though the album is called No Code, it's completely full of code. The CD and LP have this decoding dial on them, and the album was released with 4 different sets of 9 cryptic Polaroids you can collect. The most mind-blowing piece of code, however, is that once you fold out every panel on the CD or LP, the 144 Polaroids form a triangle with a circle in it, the no-code symbol, which kind of reminds me of the Illuminati, but very cool nonetheless. According to Ed, that means do not resuscitate, and it was symbolic for where they were as a group at that point in time. If we're dying, let us die. Don't try to save us, we don't want to live as vegetables. Roskilde tragedy. When Pearl Jam played the Roskilde Festival in Denmark in the year 2000, 8 people fell victim to a stampede in which they were crushed to death, and the 9th young adult later died in the hospital.
On the count of 3, 3 steps back, please. 1, 2, 3. 1, take a step back. 2, take a step back. 3, please.
Only 45 minutes into the show, after getting mixed signals from the crowd, the band finally knew something was very wrong, as they saw someone being pulled out of the crowd, and according to Ed, they were blue. Security underestimated the safety conditions, as Roskilde had a reputation of being a safe festival. But the tragedy and trauma that took place that day still lingers on in the back of the band's mind. Nowadays, they always make sure that everyone is safe and stop the show if not. The actual story behind the name Pearl Jam. Eddie Vedder had a grandmother named Pearl, who was of Cherokee heritage. She would often make her special hallucinogenic jam, which is lovingly called Pearl's Jam. The guys decided to call their group Pearl Jam as an homage to Ed's grandma.
I got a great grandma, and her name is Pearl. And she was at one time married to an Indian chief who, in a wonderful crossing of cultures, she integrated some of his into some of hers, and it was the combination of like peyote and preserves, and it was this hallucinogenic jam.
No, here's how it really went down. Jeff, being the artistic guy of the group, came up with the name Pearl, and after attending a Neil Young concert and seeing him perform long instrumental jams, the band added Jam to the name, and so Pearl Jam was born. Future days in The Last of Us. The Last of Us is a video game telling the story of Joel, a male survivor in a fungus-infested zombie apocalypse, in which he meets Ellie, a young girl who seems to be the cure for the spreading virus. A sequel was released called The Last of Us Part 2, where Pearl Jam's music actually plays a small but emotionally important role. The zombie outbreak started in 2013, just in time for Pearl Jam's 10th album, Lightning Bolt, to release. As Joel starts teaching Ellie how to play guitar, Future Days is one of the songs he likes to play and sing. At one point, and spoilers alert, Joel dies in the sequel, leaving Ellie to try and figure out how Joel used to play this song he really liked, Future Days. The lyrics also have many connections to Joel and Ellie's relationship in the story. Furthermore, a TV show adaptation was also created on HBO of The Last of Us, and telling the same story as the video game. And the song All or None by Pearl Jam also plays a part in this story. Bush Mask incidents. In 2003, when America was still in the George Bush era, Pearl Jam released Riot Act, and on it, a song called Bush Leaguer. It was a critical song of the US president already, but every time they played it live, Eddie would put on a Bush mask and eventually impale it on his mic stand. Supporters of the president were not a fan of this, of course, resulting in the band almost getting booed off stage or reaching multiple news headlines about the controversy. Eddie took it all pretty well actually, as he took the time to say that it was a good thing that people were booing and yelling. At least they weren't quiet, as the last thing political debates need is common people not using their right to say something and stand up for what they believe in. Crazy Mary. Recorded during sessions for Versus, Pearl Jam's cover of Victoria Williams' Crazy Mary is released on the benefit album Sweet Relief. Victoria Williams had been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in the previous year, and so this record was made to help the popular folk and country performer with her medical bills. This song became a live staple for Pearl Jam as they played it a lot in the 2000s and always ended the epic build-up with dueling solos from Mike McCready and keyboardist Boom Gaspar. Tier 5. Clairvoyant. Jeremy original video. Before the music video we all know and love came out, the guys actually made a different version of the Jeremy video, which can still be found on YouTube. Directed by Chris Cuffero instead of Mark Pellington, it has a couple of differences, such as the whole video being shot in black and white and featuring a different actor for Jeremy. This one was made way before the song was released as a single, and that might be the reason for a lower production quality. Where we see close-ups of Ed on a chair singing the song like a maniac in the official video, this older version mostly has full body shots spinning around individual band members, accompanied by an artistic shot here and there to match the mood and subject matter of the story. The Drunken Singles Release Party. This night is just a hilarious drunken clusterfuck which for a long time was no footage of, up until it resurfaced a couple years ago. As the movie Singles premiered, the band played a short set at its release party as they played a small role in it as well. Apparently, Pearl Jam had to wait a really long time to perform and went just drinking instead. When their time finally came, they were annoyed to find out that the crowd consisted of just a bunch of executives. And what follows is a sloppy disaster of a show featuring State of Love and Trust and The Who's Baba O'Reilly. The members say that throughout the whole show the sound was just really bad and they couldn't hear themselves that well through the monitors. At one point, Eddie was just so frustrated with this that he smashed the soundboard, which unbeknownst to him was actually the lighting rig, and he can remember wondering why it kept getting brighter in the room. The crowd changed Alive's meaning for Ed. As I've said before, Alive is a very sad song about struggling with being alive while knowing you've never really known your biological father. In 2006, Ed says something quite beautiful about how this song has transformed over time. I'm just gonna let him tell the story.
So the original story being told in the song is that of a young man being made aware of some shocking truths. And one was that the guy he believed to be his father while growing up was not. And hard truth number two was that the real father had passed away a few years before. So when the mom relays this information of the real father's death it leaves the kid who's not terribly stable at that point in his development plenty confused. And I know this because I knew the guy. Not well, but I knew him. I mean, the guy was me, but I barely knew me then. And so he takes all this news as a curse. You know, fine, you tell me these secrets, I'm supposed to forgive, but I got to figure a way, to live with this. And fine, the dad's dead, but I'm still alive, and I got to deal with this. So it was a curse, I'm still alive. So cut 2 years later, and we're playing to larger audiences, and they're responding to this chorus in a way that you never thought. And folks are jumping down in the aisles, belting it out, singing along. So every night when I'd look out on this sea of people reacting in their own positive interpretation, it was really incredible. The audience changed the meaning of these words, and when they sing "I'm Still Alive," it's like they're celebrating. And here's the thing: when they changed the meaning of those words, they lifted the curse.
Mike's dehydration when playing Maggot Brain. At the Milwaukee Summerfest of 1995, Pearl Jam played a great cover of Little Wing by Jimi Hendrix, which was followed up by the most incredible rendition of Maggot Brain I've ever heard. The 9.5-minute song by Funkadelic was mostly a guitar solo, which Mike played the ever-living shit out of. And as it turns out, he was sick in both meanings of the word. As he played so hard, he was hospitalized later after the show because of dehydration. Of the Earth. This is another great contestant for a second Lost Dogs album. Of the Earth was recorded during the self-titled Avocado Sessions around 2006, but was scrapped from the album. They've only played the song 12 times live, so it's another rarity which fans hope to one day see a studio recorded version of. In my opinion, we're missing out because it's a really good song. Footsteps is Times of Trouble. In late 1990, when the Temple of the Dog record was being made by Jeff, Stone, Mike, Matt and Chris Cornell, the band Pearl Jam was also being founded at the same time. This meant that Stone brought in a bunch of his own demos, one of which was called Times of Trouble, which Chris eventually wrote lyrics for and ended up on Temple of the Dog. The cool thing is though is that Eddie Vedder wrote his own lyrics to the exact same music as well, creating the Pearl Jam song Footsteps in the process. And this was also the final song of the Mama Son trilogy demo, which he sent over from San Diego and landed him the job of being Pearl Jam's singer. I love both Chris and Ed's writing style, and it's so cool to see how they approach the same instrumentals completely differently. 04/20/02. April 20th of 2002, or 4/20/2002, was the date when Ed first heard that the mighty Lane Staley of Alice in Chains had died. It hit hard, and in honor of his old peer and friend, he wrote a song about him with this title, expressing his grief and examining the dark side of grunge and drug abuse. And this song eventually ended up as a hidden track on the Lost Dogs album. Hey Foxy Mob Handle Mama, that's me, /Stupid Mob. This is just a cursed fucking song, man. The first time I heard this final track on Vitalogy, it scared the shit out of me. To this day I've never listened to it fully, and I always skip it as soon as it comes up on shuffle. Why? Because Hey Foxy Mob Handle Mama, that's me, otherwise known as Stupid Mob, is a 7.5-minute song containing ramblings by people in a psychiatric hospital, accompanied by some guitar playing by Eddie Vedder and some drums by Jack Irons. Here's what Ed has to say about the song. I had taped something off the TV when I was maybe 17 or something, and I think it was people who had mental problems who were being let out of the hospitals early because the states were taking away funding for mental hospitals. So they were sending these folks out without the necessary care. But it was still very intriguing the way their minds worked and what they would say, and we experimented and tried to incorporate it into what to date is our most emotional and moving song. Well, I'm not sure if you're onto something genius or incredibly demented here, Ed, but hey, it's there. The documentary he filmed is apparently called A Matter of the Mind, and it's from 1986. Here's some recognizable parts from it, I guess, if you're one of those maniacs who actually listen to this song.
How do you want people to love you?
By spanking me. That's the only thing I want so much. That's the only thing I want so much. Why is that better than being hugged? Because you get closer to the person.
Why is that better than being hugged? Because you get closer to the person.
Hey, Foxy Mop Handle Mama, that's me.
Shoe the Shoeless. In 1993, Pearl Jam played a show in Indio, California, where they were met with an unusually rowdy crowd. For no reason at all, they started throwing shoes at the band, much to Eddie's rage. He took it well though, because he ended up with a nice new outfit and a message about homelessness.
You know what? We're really good at turning these kind of situations into good ones. I just had this great idea. These are all going to be donated to charity. Thanks so much. Thank you. All right, more shoes. Shoe the Shoeless.
The meaning of ARC. The song Love Boat Captain is partly about the Roskill tragedy, with lyrics saying, "Lost 9 friends will never know, 2 years ago today." I Am Mine is another song referencing that day, in which Ed says, "All the innocence lost in one night." Ark, however, is a beautiful and haunting tribute to what happened on the festival that day, and is a direct reference to the 9 young men who lost their lives. The chanting Ed does throughout the whole song can actually be divided into 9 separate parts, each of which is connected and a tribute to one of the 9 individual victims. Jeff almost quit the band over Brother. Brother is another outtake from the 10 era. Though it's a great song, it wasn't completely released until 2003 as just an instrumental, and later with vocals added in 2009. And apparently, Jeff almost quit the band over it. Stone was at one point fed up with the song, saying he was over it and didn't want to play the riff anymore. And this resulted in Jeff and Stone having such a heated fight that Jeff considered leaving the band entirely. According to Mike, that's just how they work sometimes, and he eventually came back. Molo Sessions. Ed recorded an album with 10 members of the Walmer High School choir from Port Elizabeth, South Africa, which is called the Molo Sessions. He played Better Man, Long Road, Love Boat Captain and others with them, and here's what he had to say. They were a pure embodiment of the power of music. This music got them through apartheid and empowered them to travel abroad and share it. These kids respect the music for the opportunities it has given them, and when they sang, it inspired everyone who came into contact with them. The transcendent melodies they invented for Better Man and the like was a mind blow. Story behind Lukin.
It goes by quick, so don't wait.
Lukin is Pearl Jam's shortest song at just a minute long, but it's aggressive as hell, as it's Eddie's way of dealing with the event where a deranged fan found his home address and drove their car right through the outside wall. When he was in the middle of this stalker problem, he used to hang out at his friend Matt Lukin's house and just try to get away from everything there. And that's what the song's about. Tier 6, Dirty Frank. Eddie raging when singing War. The band's 3rd live DVD, Live at the Showbox, features them playing Daughter, and afterwards, when playing the extended jam, they tagged it with the song War. And as you can see in the footage, this is a unique moment where Eddie gets intensely riled up, singing War, what is it good for? I had never seen him this angry before, and it's kinda scary. Duty Evolution stage tremors at MSG. At the 2003 show in Madison Square Garden, the band played a great version of Duty Evolution. So great apparently that the crowd kept jumping in sync so much that the whole entire stage started moving, causing tremors in the arena. Only a select few bands managed to do the same thing, and though the guys were honestly pretty scared, they're glad to be part of that group now.
I'll just tell you, there was something happened just now, and it's easy for us to get freaked out because we want everything to be safe, but the stage was bumping up and down like... It's a credit to you more than us, but I was just told that it's only bounced that like that for a few other people, and they were Grateful Dead, Iron Maiden, and Bruce Springsteen, and we're really proud to be part of that.
No Jeremy. No one really knows what called this strange performance into existence. Maybe the band got tired of years of playing the same version of Jeremy at every live show. Or maybe they just felt like experimenting and chose this song for it. Maybe they just wanted to trick the fans for fun, confusing them because almost everyone there didn't know immediately that they were playing a different rendition of Jeremy called No Jeremy until the familiar lyrics were being sung. The only thing we know for sure is that this was played only one time and eventually found its way onto the 2010 holiday single. Olympic Platinum. When the band was working on No Code, they had a lot of extra tape and studio time one day. This beautiful song is written by engineer Nick Didia, making fun of the 1996 Olympic Games in Atlanta. Eddie wonders how high he can jump and how high he can run, and he'll sing like Whitney.
How long
my partner who doesn't really understand me or my Olympic dream. My Olympic theme. I'll sing like Whitney.
Stone was the problem. Whatever he says, it's his fault.
Well, if I was the problem, I was certainly never going to admit it. You know, Stone was the problem. I mean, it was Stone.
Jeff Imposter. Somewhere during the early 90s, a PSA message from the band was going around in fan circles, telling them something along the lines of, quote, "This is the real Jeff Fayman. If someone comes up to you and says he's Jeff Fayman and wants to take your pot or take you to a strip club, it's probably not him." According to the Reddit user Tycup Kremzik, there was an imposter going around posing as Jeff during the summer of 1996. He got to meet Jeff after he played a set, along with other fans, one of which kept trying to let Jeff know about his doppelganger that's been posing as him. Jeff's only response was, "Thanks, that's good to know." Hallucinogenic Recipe. One of the most fabled items amongst hardcore Pearl Jam collectors is an original copy of the Hallucinogenic Recipe box set. Especially when it came out in the mid-90s, when bootlegs were hard to come by. This unofficial release features studio masters by Mother Love Bone and Green River, 10 and Versus outtakes, the original Stone demos, bootleg recordings and more. But probably the most sought after part of this collection was the CD that contained solo home demos by Eddie Vedder. And well, these turned out to be mostly old recordings from his time in his old band Bad Radio, but still pretty cool. What a Wonderful World. I don't know where it came from or resurfaced on the internet somewhere, but there's a super rare, pretty funny recording of Ed singing What a Wonderful World by Sam Cooke. It was probably made a long time ago in the 1980s in his bedroom or something, on his old trusty 4-track recorder. But to me, there's just a nice air around this recording, one that makes me imagine Ed as a teenager, just sitting in his room and messing around with music, singing just for fun. Man, if he knew then where he would end up eventually. Every member can sing, Turning Mist. We all know Ed can sing, pretty damn well if you ask me. We know Stone can. Just listen to Mankind on No Code and Don't Give Me No Lip on Lost Dogs, no matter what you think of those. And just like Stone has a bunch of solo records, Jeff made a couple as well, where you can hear him sing. Matt Cameron has sung from time to time, sometimes live as well, and a couple years ago he released a solo album, Cave Dweller, where he's on vocals. The one guy in Pearl Jam we've never really heard too much of though, maybe because he's just such a beast on guitar, is Mike McCready. But let me just tell you, he can sing as well. And there's an official Pearl Jam song of his too, Turning Mist, which is on the 2009 Christmas single. Ed almost died in 2001. About 22 years ago from now, in 2001, Eddie and 5 others were out on the Hawaiian waters with their sailing canoe until it overturned, leaving them to drown. Fortunately though, this didn't happen. Keith Baxter saved him that day, and to show his gratitude, Ed donated to help Keith pay his medical bill after another boating accident years later, where a rusty anchor almost severed his leg and affected it severely, up to where he might still lose his leg entirely.
His name is Keith Baxter, and his daughter was there, a 7 years old little blonde girl, and she said, "Dad, you promised, and he said, "It's too rough out there, it's too rough." She said, "You promised you were going to take me across to the other island and take a peek," and he said, "It's too rough, baby," and she insisted. He took her on the boat ride. She heard voices amongst all the wind and these big rolling waves in the middle of this channel. There was 3 people drifting. They would have drowned if they wouldn't have found these people. There was a 70% chance they would have drowned. These people probably wouldn't have lived if it weren't for this little girl that heard this voice and made the dad stop and encouraged the dad. She saved these 3 people's lives. The reason I know this story, and I know it well, I was one of those 3 people.
I'm Still Here. This is my personal favorite Pearl Jam secret, or rare lost recording, or whatever you like to call it. Some fans say it was a hidden track on a Japanese-only promo CD for Lost Dogs, but no one really knows when it was recorded. It's still a mystery to this day. It's evident though that I'm Still Here is a deeply personal song written on a very low point in Ed's life. I happened to find this beautiful piece of music when I was going through the exact same thing, and I'm forever grateful for it, because it helped lifting me out of a bad time. It's the most powerful breakup story I've ever heard, and you can really feel the heartbreak in Ed's voice.
I hung up, she called back, I hung up again. The process had already started. At least it happened quick. I swear I died inside that night. My friend, he called, I didn't mention a thing. The last thing he said was, be sound. Sound. I contemplated an awful thing, I hate to admit. I just thought those would be such appropriate last words. But I'm still here.
I hope you enjoyed this iceberg as much as I did creating it. My Pearl Jam obsessed brain is quite content now, for a while. But maybe there will be more coming. Who knows? Anyway, thank you so much for watching and have a great day.